But I'm a lunatic, though. I'm all over the map. And by the end of it, I'm drained. My voice is gone.
Of course. Yeah. No, you're giving everything.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
I get it.
Especially when you're passionate about something,
Yeah.
I mean, I've done a lot of different things over my career, but solar has been one of those ones, or PV or utility is one of those where you're just like, I feel good about it, I mean, like Intel, dude, I hated that place.
I hope you're recording.
I am.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Because we're rolling.
Yeah, great,
All right.
great.
Yeah. With Patrick Betzel. Thanks for coming in.
Appreciate it.
All right. No, back to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was perfect.
So
make
like,
sure we're recording this.
For my kids, I love being able to tell them that I'm doing something that is sustaining for the planet long time. Intel is one of those places to where there's so many chemicals in there and so many gases, and the IDLH of that is immediate danger to life and health is like 15 seconds. So if you're exposed to the gas, it's over. And a lot of guys, just chemical exposure and all that. I didn't like it. I did that for 10 years.
That's at Intel?
Yeah.
Making chips and processors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Because, it's a full-blown fabrication. So you're doing dry etching, you're doing wet etching. There's chemicals everywhere, gases everywhere. Did it for 10 years. In the time that I was there, at least 3 guys dropped dead in the parking lot, in their car. Chemical exposure, gas exposure, the whole works. When the renewable side came along, it's nice to be able to tell your kids, hey, I'm doing something good. I'm not bringing all these harsh chemicals in, and I'm not scrubbing all this stuff, and the air's dirty and all this other. We're trying to make it a better place for you.
Yeah.
A better planet. And I love the kids' interpretation of it, though. They're like, yeah, my dad does something, I don't know what it is. He works on panels, or he has these big boxes, and you're like, yeah, that's pretty much what it is,
Well, it's better than my dad brings chemicals in.
Yeah, exactly. My dad's exposing everybody to nasty stuff, But for me, I mean, the renewable side of it, I got into it in 2009, and it was when I was working for a data center. I was doing Schneider Electric, and they bought, and I don't know if you're familiar with Xantrax Solar.
You bet.
So they bought Xantrax, and dude, I learned a long time ago in the military, it's like if they say training, you always volunteer.
Yep.
I mean, because one, you get out of the normal day-to-day marching and all the BS that goes along with it, or all the hard work because you're sitting in a class goofing off. But when the solar came around, I jumped on it, and they sent me out to Fremont, is where Xantrax used to have their office.
Here?
Somewhere out Northern California a little bit, or Central. Went up there for training for 2 weeks, and I was doing data centers and the solar at the same time, and I really liked the solar part of it, And on the service side of the world, there's something satisfying about when you take something that's broken or beat up and you can make it run again. And the customer's just like, oh man, this is amazing. You're like, yeah. I did sales for a short time, hated it. Hated it. The service side, I mean, dude, I've been doing service since I was in the service. I got into the military at 17, had to have mom and dad sign a waiver to let me in. But I was doing 480 volts, 400 cycle generators for scope dopes, radars. We were a mobile tax unit in Germany.
Okay.
And so I was pushing power back then. We would do mobile, and then we would do in-house power cycling and generation, which at the time I never thought about renewables or anything like that.
Sure.
But then you see that's what it turns into, is like, the PV side of it or the solar side of it and generating power and all that. And, I was getting into it at a young age. But the service side has always been there, just taking care of a customer, providing that quality service, giving them a product that didn't work and now it's functional again and they're making money again, or they're producing power again, things like that. That was always more exciting to me than going out and making multi-million-dollar sales and you get a percentage of it, and that was never the thrill to me. It was the service side of it.
Interesting. I've done a ton of jobs too. Services I love the most.
Really?
It's
excuse me.
I mean, it's part of the motivation behind Altair, at least my involvement of it.
Yeah.
I got to spend the rest of my life in services.
I think so. And
I'm old enough to know that.
Yeah. I actually, one of my sales guys at the company I'm with now, he reached out to me and he left and he went to another company and he's like, I want you to come do sales for me. I want you to be on my shows. I want you to go do this. And I told him, I said, I appreciate it. I said, but sales is not my passion. I mean, dude, I've been doing this long, turning wrenches, doing the whole thing. We're out changing air conditioners today. Jacob and I went out and we had to drop an air conditioner off a container, put a new one on, got it up and running, and being able to make that phone call back to the customer and say, hey, your unit's up and running again. Batteries are being cooled off. Everything's functioning the way it is. And you get that, hey, I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking care of me, you know?
I love that. Oh, okay, just to be fair, nobody gives me a wrench anymore.
No?
No one's going to let me change out their air conditioner.
Not at all, huh?
I'd really have to talk them into it. I can do it.
Yeah. I know what I'm doing. Come on, let me play with it.
They let me up a turbine. They let Jacob up a turbine, but yeah, they were watching us.
Yeah. Well, you know, and so I'm in a position now where our team is relatively small. You know, the new company I'm with, they're breaking their way into the U.S. market. You know, we've probably got 12 sites throughout the United States, and so my service team isn't really big. But not to mention the fact I'm not that office guy. I can't sit in an office just chilling out, writing paperwork or documents and all this other. The way I look at this is like, I don't understand what they're going through if I'm not out there doing it with them. Yeah. You know, no, and let me tell you, I know, you know, if you guys have been in service a while, everything that can go wrong usually does, you know, and it's how we handle that situation to get through it. You know, whether it's the weather, whether it's site access, delivery going to the wrong site, whatever it may be, you know, you've only got so much time to get it up and running, and you make it work.
Yep.
You know, and that's the satisfying part of the service side, is finding a way to make it work no matter what. You know, and like what I tell my guys all the time, at every company I've ever been at in the solar side, we're on an island. We are here by ourselves. It's up to us to get it to work. And if that means that I got to make 10 trips to Home Depot or Lowe's or Grainger or whatever to get the parts that are needed, we're going to do it. And at the end of the day, we're going to satisfy that customer's needs to get their equipment up and running. And it's funny because my guys at first are like, yeah. And I was like, I practice what I preach. No BS. I'm out there with you. The 12, 14-hour days, we're going to hump it. We're going to get it done. And it's amazing the difference that I see in a working manager or director that still goes out and turns the wrenches versus the ones that sit in the office, about the respect that they get from their team, the camaraderie, and the support. I can ask any one of my guys at any given time, like, hey, I need you. And they will do it in a heartbeat for me because they know I'll do the same for them. And that makes all the difference in the world on my service side of the house. And I've tried to reflect that to my team and my customers over the years. And where I was at the big scale, at the last company I was at, we started with 4 engineers. And by the time I left there after 5.5 years, we were at 55 field service engineers, 4 controllers. I had 4 coordinators, and then I had the warehouse staff of 6.
Okay.
Our customer satisfaction rating was 98%. Vendor satisfaction was 99%. My retention in those 5 years, I had 1 person quit and 1 got promoted into a different position. Other than that, that whole team stuck with me through the whole process. And these guys, we had support on the East Coast, West Coast, you named it. I could pick up a phone and ask them, hey man, I'm stuck on this. Can you help me out? And they were more than happy to oblige because they knew I'd jump on a plane and go help them turn wrenches and pull out stacks or whatever it was, you know. We were talking on the way in about, some of the issues we've had over the years, like, some of the sites that we built are the ones outside of Vegas, you know, as you head down 95 South, there's, what did we have? 5 sites just right on that corridor there. And they went back to back to back when we were starting them up. And, we were pretty much living in Vegas, just going to town, working all the time. But the guys would trip out because what I do on a site is, even though I'm the director or the manager, when I go out there, I was like, this is your site. You tell me what you want me to do. And I would take a list of inverters and I was like, okay, we're going to go get these running. We would divide. And it was the craziest thing because when we started this company, or when we started working for the company, my first site was 205 megawatts. The growth was ridiculous because we went from a very small presence in the US to we were just doing large utility scale sites, and our growth was 40% my last 2 years that I was there. So it was very minimal, and then it just skyrocketed. So we needed to expand and grow as quickly as we could. And that's what I mean about the people that I hired. It's like, I don't look at the resume, I look at the individual, and I look at what they've done and where they've been and their passion for what they do, because the interview process for me is a lot different. And every recruiter that I talk to, they're like, I've never had anybody interview the way you do. And it's like, because I'm not that, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What's your goal? What's your plan? It's like, no. How do you feel about camping? Because you're remote. You're 30 minutes out in the middle of nowhere. Right. There's no porta-john. You're a porta-john, no bathrooms, no food. You're hiking in your food. You're dealing with snakes, scorpions, bugs, all this other stuff. And it's just a different environment. But what I found over the years is, if I get in there with them, they're more apt to do anything that I need whenever I need them to, and they'll jump. They're like, yeah, let's go do it, because I'll jump on a plane with them. It's like, let's go.
Sure.
And I've had a blast.
I love that. We talk a ton about how the manager needs to be in the field.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, managers in the office, fine.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
Yeah, but not all the time. And it's funny because if I sit in the office too long, I start getting stir crazy.
You're stir crazy.
I'm like, I got to go see what's going on, man.
Yeah.
Because I hear the calls, the emails, and all this other. Oh, we got this down, we got that down, and I'm like, oh, what'd you do? How'd you fix it? How'd you get it running again? What's going on? Yeah. And I love that part of it. But
I still get into all those questions.
Do
too.
you?
You can't stop.
Yeah.
No.
I did. I did a sales job for a brief stint before I got back into service. And it was like Groundhog's Day, if you remember that movie.
Hell yeah.
It was the same day over and over, just going into that cubicle, turning on the light, putting on your radio. It's like, I can't do it. I'm climbing the walls here, So as soon as I can get back out in the field, I loved every bit of it. Although when I get too old, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do then,
What didn't you like about sales other than the cubicle?
Oh, okay. So this is the one that really gets me about sales, and I can throw this out to you guys. So we were a division of Schneider Electric. Okay, they were a sales team for Schneider, and what we would do is we would go meet with the customer, and we would lay out their data center. So you've got the racks that come in, the DC powers, the batteries, the transformers, ATSs, all the switch gears, everything that's got to come in. And what we would do is we'd lay out, okay, let's get you this switch gear, this box, these breakers, here's what you need for the power, the cable, all this other. And the thing that drove me crazy most about the sales is you make this wonderful relationship, you build this sale, and then the day of arrival, you get a call from the factory going, hey, that's not ready for another 6 weeks. And so you got to be the guy to call them and say, hey, it's going to be delayed. And he's like, I got electricians here. Mm-hmm. I got all these vendors here. The floor's up, everything else. And it's my fault no matter what, because I'm the one that's holding that product. So that was always the hardest part for me, is like, you never get the success story of service, of starting something up, building it, and getting it running. You get the crap side of it when it all goes to hell, and there's never that. And I'm not saying reward is the way that I live or do that. It's just the fact that you feel that satisfying. We were talking about it's more like euphoric, that I got it up and running. I made them happy. On the sales side, you don't get that. You get the ass chewing for when the parts don't come in. And then if it's wrong, it's all your fault. Like, for example, we went through this whole thing and they didn't order any breakers. And they're like, where are my breakers? I said, well, you never discussed what you want. And they're like, well, we should get them anyway. And I was like, well, no, it's a la carte. You got to buy everything with it. They didn't like that either.
Right.
So that was the part of the sales that I didn't like, is like, you get all the heat, but you don't get any of the recognition. And then when the product's done, it's the service team that's like, yeah, we got it up and running. And they're happy with that. The sale, I don't know. You can make a lot of money in sales. You can have a blast with it, but money isn't everything, man. I like the satisfying feeling of taking something that's broken, getting it up and running, and making that customer happy, and then making that customer for life, where they're like, we want you guys back on site. We want you out here.
Love that. No, and you get told no 4 times for every one yes.
Oh you
got a lot of rejection.
You got to get used to being told no for sure.
A lot of rejection. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Altair Energy Services, and their highly trained, expert technical staff, leveraging decades of renewable power management experience into customized solutions for everyone to meet their energy goals and contribute to a better future for all. Altair's team of hardworking, respected experts are providing full-scope, turnkey repairs, planned and unplanned maintenance, system upgrades, fully autonomous technical crews, supplemental staffing, and customized dynamic scheduling to fit your power production needs. Contact Altair at info@altairenergyservices.com and learn more about their wide range of capabilities across multiple power technologies and platforms.
But where I was going with the when we go to site is when I say, for example, Jacob, who's sitting in here with me, when we would go to a site, and he had been out there for 3 months before that doing the pre-commissioning of it, because we really prided ourselves on, and it blew people away in this industry. We would go out to site, we would spend 3.5 months prepping the inverters, getting everything ready, making sure combiners were good, checking the DC, going through the process. That way, the day of, we could start a 200, 300, 400 megawatt site in a day. The first time we went to the customer, we're like, hey, we need to be able to push power on all of this. And they're like, there's no way. Everybody in the industry takes 2 to 3 weeks to do it. You can't do it. Well, we did all behind the scenes. We brought up a 250 megawatt site or 300 megawatt site in Nevada in 6.5 hours. All the inverters were online. Everything was operational, running. The customer was like, this is insane. This doesn't happen in the industry. And I said, well, it's kind of how we went and made it happen by doing everything behind the scenes beforehand on the pre-commissioning side. So the day of, it's just turning on the power, pushing it to make sure the thing's operational. Any faults, clear them. And what we would do is we would call it a tiger team, to where the guys commissioning would get it going. If there was a fault, they would move on to the next one. Tiger team would come in, figure out the fault, and keep it running. And when we started that first 200 or 300 megawatt site, they were just like, okay. So from that point on, I mean, I would have arguments back and forth with customers. Once we do a site, the next time they're like, whatever Pat and his team says, that's what we're going to go with. Because we told them we can do it, and we proved it to them, and they were like, this is unbelievable. So we kind of changed the game on the solar side when we were able to bring a site up that quickly.
Where'd you learn all of this?
Back in the military, honestly.
Okay.
And then for me, it was more of, I became the type of manager I am because of every bad manager I ever had, if that makes sense.
Hell yes. Expand on that. We talk about managers on this podcast a lot.
So
yes,
for me, it was always everything that a manager did to me that I didn't like. I was like, I will never do that to my team. I will never put them through that shit.
Oh, I love this.
Because I mean, prime example, being up in Ohio, December, middle of winter. And if you know Ohio in winters, man, they're pretty brutal.
Chilly.
I'm out there, and this is when I was at Power One ABB. We were starting 250 megawatt units. We had 3 of them back to back at schools. Middle of winter, we're freezing our asses off out there trying to get something going, and calling back and trying to get support from engineering or whatever, and just the lack of we'll get to it. I'm like, you don't understand, man. We're standing out here right now. We're trying to get this running. I need you now. And it was always one of those things to where it's like, if someone's calling me and they need some, I know I need to be there for them right now. I don't have the luxury of like, let me go get a cup of coffee, hang out with whoever, do what's going on. It's like, no, this is a problem. They're telling me about it. Let's go. Another prime example is like anytime a guy tells me, a female guy, whoever it is, sorry if I say guys, I mean, I have women all over my team, love them to death. And let me tell you, they're the most organized and detail-oriented ladies out there in the field. I love it when I have the ladies out there, because a lot of guys are like, and I was like, trust me, she's going to get this done.
We didn't think you were being sexist.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Well, in today's age, man, you never know. You're like, this is kind of crazy.
We need pronouns so we understand what's going on. No, we understand.
Yeah, and just guys in general.
It's the common language.
Right. But to be out there just humping away, but when I get somebody that says, hey, man, I need the time off, I will do whatever I can to make sure that I backfill that spot. So he's telling me I need a break, or she's telling me I need to get away for a while, and I'll give you another instance. Same sites in Nevada. I had one of my guys, he was kind of hot tempered at times, but he was very methodical, doing the job, doing it great with it. He got into an altercation with the EPC or with the construction team, and it was over the combiner boxes, getting them turned on, because we were told the field was ready. And in this game, they're never ready when they say they're ready, and they're always behind the scenes trying to get everything up and running. They're like, no, we're good. Don't mind us plugging in over here. And you're like, come on, dude. Me, I'm patient. I'm like, I'll sit in the truck and doodle all day, whatever, But this guy was meticulous, wanted to get moving, and they were behind him turning on combiner boxes. They got into a heated argument, got into a shoving match. I called back to my HR and I said, I need to put him on emergency vacation. And they're like, what's going on? I said, it's not important. I said, I just need him to get a break. He left for a week. The guy came back recharged, ready to go. And it lasted for another 6 months. Then he did it again, and I was like, okay, you need another break, and in this game, tempers flare, people are out there working their ass off. It's hot, sweating like crazy, and everybody wants it done now. And that's kind of why we started doing the behind the scenes beforehand. So when the day of, it was just a turn on and go, and it just blew people away. And I love the fact that we were able to bring that to the market, and they're like, no, this is unheard of. We had some sites in the Carolina areas, and very first site, they're like, nope, can't do it. We did it. And they're like, moving on, whatever they say, just follow their lead. So
it started with a series of bad managers, and you watched this and went, I'm going to be the opposite of this.
Oh yeah.
So it was all the negative space that you created your own manager style.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a tougher way to do it.
Yeah,
it was. For you for coming out with a positive attitude.
Well, dude, I'm kind of that guy that's just goofy all the time, and I have a really good outlook on life and where I'm at. But when it comes to the job, the way I look at it is like, we're focused, we're doing what we need to do. I need that support behind me. And if I'm the guy that's back there supporting it, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that they're taking care of doing their job. And it goes back to some of the managers I had over the years. And it's like, I don't give a shit. You're going to work today, whether you like it or not. You're like, oh, okay. Or if you got a problem in the family, I don't care. That's not my problem. The way I see it, these guys are begging me, man. They're and not begging me, but they're saying, I need a break. And I'm like, hell yeah, take it. It's funny because I keep referring to Jacob since he's here with me today. But there was, and it's kind of comical, but he was in New Mexico starting a site out up there. He rolled back into Phoenix and we were getting ready to send him out again. And, he kind of pulled me aside and he's like, hey man, I've been on the road a little bit. And he goes, believe it or not, I got a date this weekend. And I was wondering if I could, and I was like, absolutely. I jumped on a plane. I went out there and I covered the weekend work that was going on.
Oh, man.
And the other guy that was with me, his supervisor at the time, was like, this is crap. I can't believe it. I was like, look, man, he just needs a break. If it's a weekend, if it's a day, let's give that to him, because come Monday, he's recharged and ready to go to work.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Are you creating more of you? Are people working for you saying
a better version of
that's
me, if
the
you
kind
will.
of
a better
manager
version.
I want to be?
I hope so. I really do.
I'm sure they are.
I really do. I mean, I've got friends in this game that I've known for 25, 30 years that are like, dude, wherever you're going, I'll come work for you. And again, prime example is Jacob. He was with me at my last company. I brought him and 3 other guys over with me to the new company I'm at now. And they're like, we like your program. We want to follow you and let's see what happens. They're ready to go build with me wherever I go.
Yeah.
And I love that, and I'm not saying that I'm amazing at it or it's great. It's just, I learned to flow with the guys and I kind of get to know them. I'd say kind of more so than kind of. I get to know them on that personal level, so I understand them a little better, and what their wants and needs are. Mm-hmm. And again, this is the best way to look at this. I look at this as external customers and internal customers.
Yep.
My team is my internal customer.
That's right.
What do I need to do to take care of them so they take care of me? And, I'd like to say a lot of it is just based on my past history with my bosses.
I love how you said it. Too many people get to be a manager and like, look at all these people I'm in charge of. Look at all these people that work for me.
Yeah.
Nope, you're wrong. That's
I work
that's
for them.
two.
Yeah.
They're your customers.
Absolutely.
They're your internal customers.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Well, thanks. And one of the other things that I've told my teams over the years is I am training you for your next position, whether it's with me here or wherever you're moving on to. I'm getting you a better version of yourself to be better at your job in your next role, whatever it may be. And they like it. They like the fact that, I'm willing to take the time, get to know them, understand their wants and needs, help them out whenever I can, provide them with, quality training or whatever it may be. What do you need? How do we make it better for you? And the simplest little things that give me sometimes, a toolbox. Providing a toolbox to a team member with all the tools the day one they walk in, they're like, all right, this is a professional operation. They have everything I need. I've been to companies where you get there and they're like, we don't have anything. We need to go buy this for you. We need to get this. And it's like, I need all my safety gear, man. I'm starting day one. And they're like, we don't have that. So, and it was weird because at the last company I was at, I used to go pick the guys up at the airport and I'd go bring them in. And I remember my finance guy and one of the other people in the office is like, no other company does that. And I said, exactly. I do. I want them to know, hey, I'm working with you. You're not working for me. We're working together. And the least I can do is pick you up at an airport into a new city you've never been to and give you a ride back to the office. Sit down, get to know you a little bit, go grab some lunch, breakfast, whatever it may be, and understand that hey, I'm here. Let's
Such a small gesture.
Littlest thing.
A small gesture.
And my finance guy, my finance guy's like, you can't do that. You shouldn't be. Let them get an Uber. And I'm like, why? Why not make it in a personal connection with this new hire that you're bringing in to say, hey, welcome. I'm here to work with you and help you out.
God, that's great.
Oh, it's crazy. They fought me on everything, and I was like, okay. I like doing it my own way, but
man, I'm writing that one down.
Dude, I buck the system sometimes, and management side gets pissed at me because I tell them, I know you want me to be the manager and I know you want me to be the corporate guy. I'm just a dumb guy in the field turning wrenches, just happen to move up through the ranks and just in a good spot at a good place, prove that I can do the job. And it's like, I want other guys to do that,
Any of those guys that got promoted into a manager role that you fostered?
A lot of them.
Okay.
A lot of them. Jacob was one of them.
And you still talk to them, and they
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you still get, like, I get a lot of the phone calls when something bad happened. I got a problem.
Oh, yeah.
And because the relationship's so good, they just text and go, I need some coaching. They're just so honest about it. I got a problem. I got a problem. Just give them a ton more advice, and they go out and they crush it again.
You know, one of the craziest things when I was stationed up in Montana, and I was taking some classes at the college. You know, young 22-year-old kid trying to better himself. You know, and one of the instructors I had, you know, I would like to say I wasn't high strung, but when I was in the military, I was living it. I was in it, man. Because when you do it, you're like, yeah, let's go. You know, let's get into it. Every part of it. Hoorah, you know, go fly, the whole works, you know, aim high, the whole work, you know, the commercials back in the day when you're like, yeah, let's go do it. I got into it. So I was very much, you know, the squared away sergeant with my boots, the shine, the whole works. But you just, you get beat down sometimes from those managers and bosses that you're just like, oh man, you know, and from that point on, I was like, I want to be better. I want to be better than they are and how they treated me. And I want to make sure that my guys know that it's not just a job to me, man. You know, you're making a commitment to me and what we're doing every single day. And I want to make sure that I make that commitment back to you. You know, and I like to tell my guys, I'm not really a manager or a director. You know, I'm just kind of there in case you need me. I'm more of a counselor. How can I help you? Like you said, coach me. Yeah. Give me some guidance. Help me through this situation. Coach me. And I love it. You know, I love doing that. And when you ask I still got old Air Force buddies of mine. He followed me at Schneider Electric, and he went on to work with me at LDP, and he's still there. You know, he jumped, but we still talk regularly. You know, I got an old 8th grade friend that we still stay in touch with each other. He started his own business, went off and was very successful. I'd like to think that I build these lifelong relationships with these guys. And it's not just a work thing. I mean, even after they've worked with me, we're still friends. We still communicate. We still talk. When you ask if like they've moved into management roles, so how we did is I tiered it up at the last company I was at to where we had, you know, me as the director, and then we had regional managers, and then we had supervisors underneath them, you know, because they didn't want to overload me with too many guys, you know, but they still did anyway, you know. Sure. In most companies, no, we're not going to work you that hard, but then they work you into the ground.
All of a sudden something booms and
yeah. And we did it that way, and we allowed, and every one of my guys, most companies, they're like, hire outside, bring somebody in. Not me. I'm like, we're promoting within. One, what it tells that team is like, he recognizes my hard work and my talent. He sees it, and he's willing to promote me into that role. You know, and it's really funny. And I never thought of it this way, but I met up maybe a month and a half ago with about 8 to 10 of the employees that I used to work with at the last place. And we all met up, and they were talking, and my wife was sitting there, and I got up and I went to the bathroom, and she told me this later on when I got back, and they were all sitting around, and they were talking about working with me and what they really enjoyed about it. And I have this one guy, I love him. I call him Frank the Tank. Frank Gomez he was my trainer. You know, he went on and he moved into the field service side. I worked with him at ABB. I worked with him at the last company I was at, you know, and he went on to field service, and then he went on to training, just moving his way up. But I always called him my little Eeyore, because he's like, oh, you know, woe is me. But when he got in there to train, dude, he was like, hey, how you doing? Good morning. He put on that game face. Loved it. Well, we're all sitting around the bar. I get up and I go to the bathroom, and I come back, and as we're leaving, my wife's like, I have to tell you something. And I'm like, what's that? And she goes, you know, I was sitting around listening to these guys talk about you. And she goes, I get a little choked up about it. But she goes, Frank made a comment, and they were like, yeah, you know, I really enjoyed working for Pat. And Frank goes, what I love about Pat is he makes you think you can do anything. Oh, shit. Anything that's out there. And dude, that hits me because I'm like, God, I've empowered this guy to make him feel like he can go out and succeed in anything he does. I loved it. You know, and of course I'm on my way home and I'm like, no, that's honey, right. You know, come on, trying to be the big guy. But it just, amazing. Oh, it hit me, man. It hit me hard. And it's like, it's nice to know that I reach them in a way that they feel like they're empowered and they can do whatever they want. And I'm not asking them to do anything crazy. I'm just saying you can do it.
I was going to ask your motivation on becoming the manager that you are, but I think the answer is to help others.
Absolutely.
I mean, just hearing how that story hits you. Oh, you're doing this to help other people
every time, and like, and that's
God, that's the right passion for the manager.
That's not, when I say that I'm grooming you for your next position. That's not BS. That is straight up like I'm getting you promoted one way or another. You're going to prove to me that you can do it, and then I'm going to make sure your career soars. You know, it's just one of those things to where it's like I've had somebody do that with me. And I'll give, Roberto Cardoso, don't know if you've ever met him. Over the years, Roberto was my manager at ABB. He was my manager at the last company. And, it was one of those guys where he's like, I'm going to help you grow in this industry and we're going to get to it. But then, of course, he got so busy. So then it was me like, okay, let's go down that path. And I've always been that type of guy is like, give me a little bit and I'll work with it. We'll figure out a way to make it work. And, it's not just here, it's not just the last places, but everywhere I've ever been, I try to make an impression to make the company or the guys that I work with a better place. I'm not here to cause headaches. I'm here to improve the overall work in this company,
We'd like to take this time to thank another one of our wonderful sponsors, Podge Engineering. Podge Engineering, making wind and solar all we know it can be. Are your renewable energy assets underperforming or not performing at all? Did you expect many years of longevity and they're failing on you now? Podge LLC offers many customized, engineered products and solutions to get these assets back on track. Podge Engineering also performs root cause analysis, engineering services, procurement, and construction. Visit podge.org. That's PADGE.org. Remember Podge, making wind and solar all we know it can be.
With that mindset, I think you can go into about any industry and just crush it. I know you say services, but man, that's wide. But
Yeah.
we talk a lot about managers on here too. I don't know if you've caught any of that, but
Yeah.
And I've taught a lot of manager classes in my life, and now I just taught an intro to management. So just soft people skills. And the whole goal is become a person that other people want to work for.
Absolutely.
Like, can you make yourself that person? And you have done that.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
But your motivation is to help other people.
Absolutely.
That's your motivation. I don't know if I can teach that motivation. I think that's either in you or it's not.
Yeah, maybe. But I think everybody has that drive and ambition. Well, I wouldn't say everybody. There are some lazy ass people out there,
Not even lazy, but a lot of people do
Just
things for other
unmotivated.
reasons.
Unmotivated, if
Or
you
it could
will.
be time of life.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
there was
That's true.
there was a big chunk of my life where I didn't care much outside of my family unit.
Right,
My
right.
job was husband, my job was dad, my kids were little, I got all the other things to do.
Yeah,
I couldn't think past it. I got to invest in these people.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes just timing.
Yeah,
Phases-
that's true. I can
phases
see
of
that.
life.
And when you talk about good management skills and things like this, one of the things that I still try to do, I'm not doing it with this company, but my last one, I would every year do a safety stand down. And the company fought me every single time because of the cost of bringing in all the engineers in and all the training that you're going to do and all this.
Travel meeting.
And I was like, no, we need to do this. I've got to shut them down. I've got to. And my trainings were a little bit more bizarre than anybody else because I would bring in a forklift operator. We would all get trained up on utility scale forklifts. And because we're changing out the air conditioners, changing out heavy stuff, lifting stuff up. I would also bring in, and I don't know if you've ever heard of Aslan. Tad Norris with Aslan Training, they do customer management training.
Okay.
And I would bring him in and they would do a 1 or 2 day, I can't remember what it was, I think it was 2 days, but they would sit down with me and they're saying, okay, what's your industry? What do you guys do? And they would tailor make a training document, big old folder with all kinds of tabs in it. And they're teaching techniques on customer service. At the end of it, what I always would do is I would do a round robin with everybody in the room. And I was like, what'd you get from the training? And dude, over the years, think about some of the training you got. You're like, this was a waste, man. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? We would go around the room and these guys, every one of them was like, having that training has given me so much now because I feel more comfortable in front of the customer, being able to talk to them. And what I would love to do this. I'd make them so uncomfortable. I would give them a task and I was like, you're teaching the class. What do you mean? And I said, trust me, I'm teaching you the soft skills of getting in front of people,
That's it.
being able to communicate with them.
That's it.
And if you can do it in front of your peers that you're comfortable with on a daily, hey buddy, how's it going? Doing it with them, you're going to be comfortable in front of any customer you ever go in front of. And every one of those guys are like, man, you're really getting me uncomfortable here. But then they get up and they start doing it and they start flowing. And now they're like, I got no problem talking to a customer. Because think about your service guys. They're the face of your company every single time they're on site.
Yep.
Do you want somebody showing up going, oh, yeah, I don't know. Or do you want somebody that's going to look you in the eyes and go, you know what, I'm here to take care of you. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get that running for you. And it paid dividends to teach these guys those soft skills.
I love that.
So they could go in and learn.
And a separate trainer. And I've done some of that with a separate trainer in a professional setting. And a lot of it is pitching in a conference room, right? And you know, or speaking to a large audience, moving your eye contact, keep your blood flowing, and you know, don't lose train of thought. Don't get too wrapped up into what's going on out there. But hands down, the best classes that, or at least helped me, improv.
Yes.
Show up to some improv classes.
Yes.
Oh, man. You want to find out how uncomfortable you can get instantly? Yeah. They'll teach you.
Sure.
They'll make you uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah. They'll make you feel so uncomfortable.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, for me, it was when I got out of the Air Force, I went to work as a government contractor for the Navy. And I was up in a rural area called Naval Air Station, Fallon, Nevada, which is about an hour outside of Reno and Carson City and all that little triangle out there. I ended up taking the job as I was ground support working on the flight line, but I ended up taking the assistant safety director job because my safety manager needed somebody. They used to fly us out to Phoenix, and I was maybe 24, 25, and they put me in a train the trainer class, just like an improv class. You know, pull something out of a hat, you got to go up and talk on it. And let me tell you, man, that was one of the most uncomfortable feelings in the world. I didn't know a soul in there, but it taught me how to talk in front of people. It taught me how to, like you said, scan that room, make eye contact, change the pitch in your voice, do whatever you need to do to keep their attention, keep them involved. And that taught me a lot. But what it also taught me is I don't want to put my guys in a room full of people they don't know. I'd rather them do it with somebody that they're comfortable with, and we can joke and laugh about it and show them, hey, man, you might want to improve this or try this or do that. And after that, they soar.
Yeah, you got to start small.
Yeah, they just take off.
Walk before you run.
Yeah, and man, that Aslan training, I hope Tad, gets a hold of this one day. But it's him and his people, man. I've done that for a few years at my last company, and I'm trying to talk the new company into it, But of course, budget. They're always like, no, because to get him to come out and do it, it was about $15,000. But he was teaching 50 engineers, in a room in a area and all that, and the binders and everything that went with it, the books that came. But when I go around Robin at the end of that thing, the guys are like, dude, that's some of the best training I ever had.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. And I look at some of the trainings I've had over the years, and recently I can tell you, we went and did some customer training, and it was funny because it was more of a product identification and looking at it. And then they hand me a certificate after and goes, you're trained. And I'm like, no, I'm not, and they thought that was great training. And I was like, that's not good training at all. One of the things that I did at the last company is we built a training center. And we built a training center that I wanted. And what I did is we would do level 1 for the customers, where they would come in, learn the equipment, how to start it, how to shut it down, how to reset it, anything like that. Level 2 and level 3 was for any of the techs and the customers that wanted to do it. But we're taking out power stacks. We're pulling out inductors. We're changing the boards. We're programming them. I had inverters hanging on the wall that we would plug into and talk to it. It was more hands-on because that's how I learn. You can give me a book, I can read it, and it's like I can quote some of it, but I don't remember it. You give me the tools and a guideline to follow, and taking out that power stack, putting it back in, and knowing how to put the hardware in and all that, you retain that stuff.
It depends on your learning style. Hands-on learner, perhaps. Which most service people are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No,
and it was funny because a lot of customers are like, really like your training. Thank you. I got something out of it. I'm like, good. That's the idea behind it. I'm charging you a lot of money for it. Of course you want to learn something, Right. Simple as that.
Yeah, and you found a way to teach them the way that the service folks needed to learn.
Right. And that, honestly, that one came from the Air Force because in our tech school, I was out there for 6 months in Rantoul, Illinois, man. Whew. You ever been out there? The winters are rough.
No.
But the Air Force had a training center out there in Rantoul, and what we would do is it was a week or two where you would spend 5 days or 10 days on hydraulics, pneumatics, air conditioners, heaters, because we were doing flight line maintenance. It was all the equipment that simulated what an aircraft can do in the air. So we had to maintain it on the ground. So we learned all those systems. So in a very short time, I learned air conditioning, heating, hydraulics, pneumatics, electronics, gas and diesel engines. It was a lot, but it was hands-on. And we're in there turning wrenches, pulling parts out, putting them back in, following SOPs, and it taught me a lot. Because in school, I was that kid that I joked, I played, I laughed, to get the laugh more than anything else. And then really digging into the books and studying and going at it. I mean, I did okay, but I could have done better, But when I got to a place where it was like hands-on, that's when I was like, oh shit, I kind of shine at this. I like this. It's fun. And that's how I always wanted to teach my guys,
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, I struggled in school a little bit for the lectures and the talking piece. Yeah. I'm not a big audible learner. Ooh. I'm very visual and hands-on. But I can read a book and ace your test.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yep.
But tear your thing apart.
Do you retain it when you ace the test?
If I'm reading or I'm doing it with my hands, yes.
Yeah.
If I just have to listen, short-term memory only.
Yeah, it's like I didn't hear anything.
Short-term only. Yeah. No, half a beer, that stuff's gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, you got, I don't know where we're at, but you got Jacob here with you.
Yeah. It's a great little story. This is where it goes back to the resume side of things, where most companies do the hiring based upon a piece of paper and, tell me who you are, what you did and all this fun stuff. And most interview questions are, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What's your plan for the company? How do you help us succeed? Things like that.
Why do you want this job?
Yeah, not me. So if you want to bring Jacob in here, we can chat with him too.
Yeah. Can we do that, Jacob? We got 2 Jacobs now.
This episode brought to you by RST Cranes. With over 30 years of experience, RST Cranes brings the industry expertise to every project. From wind turbines to solar inverters, mining operations to industrial construction, RST Cranes is your heavy lift specialist, located in Tehachapi, California, and serving the surrounding areas. Contact RST Cranes for your next project at www.rstcranes.com.
Jacob, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, so we got an interesting story here. You guys got to tell. I heard a little teaser earlier, but...
Okay, so I'll start us off and give you a little bit of background, then I'm going to let him go into it a little bit. So in 2020, during COVID, my daughter and her fiance at the time wanted to get married in Vegas. So I was like, okay, yeah. And they asked me to do it. So I got ordained and we went to Vegas, and it was during the lockdown. So it was down to 25%. So Vegas was like a ghost town. There was nobody there. Well, we went all out. It's my daughter's wedding, and my daughter, she's very shy, very quiet. And she's like, Dad, I don't want the attention on me. I can't handle people staring at me as I'm standing up there waiting to walk. She didn't want the traditional walk down the aisle, nothing like that. So they put AC/DC Back in Black on, and I rolled through there, and I touched and shook hands and hugged everybody that was at the wedding when I walked in. Back and Back's playing, going to town, and I wanted to draw the attention away from her because I'm like, I can be goofy all day long. I don't care. I can laugh at myself.
Made her feel good.
Absolutely. She was so comfortable. I get up there, we do the ceremony, I get them married. Well, I rented a bus, and the bus was going to take us on a little party. And so they took us to a liquor store. We bought bottles, and of course, dancer pole in the bus. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Stone cold sober. I get up there and I'm doing my best pole dance. Yeah, my daughter's like, oh, here we go. And he's never met me before. All of her friends and everybody that's there never met me before. Well, we go to the Vegas sign, taking pictures. We're doing all this. Well, I noticed throughout the night, one of the buddies that was with Jacob got hammered. I mean, just hammered. And I watched this young man right here take care of him. Made sure he got on the bus, got off the bus. If he was getting sick, he took care of him. Showed me a lot of his character as an individual, and it was a good little weekend, Friday, Saturday, everybody went home on Sunday. Never really talked to Jacob after that. And about a year later, I was looking to hire some more people. We were growing like crazy. I needed some bodies. And I knew Jacob was in the Marines. So I was like, okay, he's got the military background. I saw how he was as a person, his character, how he took care of this young man. Well, I asked my family, I was like, hey, do you know of anybody who's looking? And my daughter and my son-in-law said, Jacob would be interested in a job like that. Like, great. Brought him in, got his resume, and kind of went through the process. And I was doing everything I could to get him on board. And the company was fighting me. They're like, no way. And it has to do with his background, because they're like, he has no experience in solar. Why would you want to do this? And I said, again, I can teach the inverter side, the solar side, the PCS, whatever transfer. I can teach that. What I can't teach is those skills of people that in the field, away from the family, traveling, doing all that other stuff. And I said, this is why I want to bring him on. And as they look through his resume, they're looking at it, and his last job, what were you doing before?
So I used to be in the funeral industry. I was a funeral director. I was also a cremationist and an intern embalmer. So
from the military to funeral home.
Yes. So several other jobs before that, because I was Marine Corps Reserve. So I wasn't full-time active duty. I was reserve, so I worked basically 2 lives, my weekend drill period, working full-time job, trying to go to school, things of that nature. But I eventually wound up in the funeral industry. Started as what's called a removal technician, the individual who goes and picks up the deceased and brings them back to the care facility.
A removal technician.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I started
Man,
at.
I need to update my resume for a couple things now.
But I started there, found out I loved helping people, helping families through that difficult time, decided to go get cremationist certified, got my cremationist license, started cremating, did that for about a year and a half, decided I want to go to school, went to school, got my associate's degree in mortuary science so I could become an embalmer. And
I mean, that was a career forever.
Yeah, of course.
I spent about 5 years in the
You were embracing it.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. I got to help people through a really difficult time, especially when COVID came around. That was about the time I started being a funeral director. And through that difficult time, not just because, one, you lost somebody, but two, especially during COVID, it was extraordinarily hard on families because you can't even see them a lot of the times.
Wow.
I mean, I got to see New York and during lockdown and a whole bunch of stuff where it's just memories that are, unfortunate that those were the situations, but memories that, I do appreciate having those opportunities. So, but yeah, no, I got to help people for a long time. And eventually I was just like, as much as I love what I do, I love helping people. Cost of living's going up. I got to make some more money. And it does take a toll on you mentally over time being around that.
I bet.
And hearing the stories and the sadness. And,
I bet.
don't get me wrong. Again, loved helping the families through that, hearing their stories and everything, but it does wear you down over time. So
Probably like being a counselor or a cop or something. You just deal with a lot of negative.
Negative
it's
all
a
the
lot
time.
of negative, but you try to make it as positive for them as they can.
Sure.
Try to at least make their last memory of their loved one as happy as you can possibly make it. And that's always what I strove for, was trying to do right by the people I was taking care of. So but did that, and then all of a sudden, like you said, he started looking at his daughter and son-in-law, and I had mentioned I was looking to change jobs just so I could try to make a little more comfort room for me for my bills month to month.
Yeah.
Always had a desire to get into engineering stuff ever since I was a kid. Loved taking stuff apart. I worked on cars, computers, putting them back together, figuring out how they work, troubleshooting them, fixing them, all that fun stuff. And threw my name in the hat, not expecting anything of it. I was like, I don't have an engineering background. I've got the military background, which helps, but I don't have a degree. I know solar from my dad teaching me a bunch of stuff because he's very into it. And, and so I just started doing research, teaching myself solar on my own before I even got an interview with them, and came into the interview and I was like, hey, look, I'm here to learn. If you're willing to teach me and you'd say go, I'm ready to go. So...
And again, it was more about the person than the piece of paper. He had the military background, which and it's an old saying: embrace the suck.
Yeah.
You just take what's coming and you deal with it and move on. And I knew that if he had spent the time in the military, he could handle this job, as remote as it is, as the travel goes, the loneliness of it. You're on the road, you're away from your family, you get alone, and all that. That's more what I was looking at. And again, his character of how he took care of that young man when he was drunk off his ass and couldn't even stand. It was a fight. My HR and, people above me and HQ's like, no, I don't know. And I said, look, again, I can teach the solar, but I can't teach what he has already. Mm-hmm. And within 6 months, you moved up into a supervisor role, right?
Yeah, 6 to 8 months. I went from field service technician to supervisor when Guillermo moved on to his role at the time. So I took over the West Region supervisor role. And then after about another 6 months, I moved into the West Region manager position. So,
congrats.
thank you.
Congrats. You've clearly worked very hard for that. And I think you're really lucky. I mean, I never thought of it before, but this funeral home experience, you not embrace the suck, but you learned how to care for people,
Absolutely.
Strangers, at one of the lowest times in their life. I mean,
Very
like everything after that is easier for caring for people.
It is.
That's a tough spot. So
it is, and there's times where it's definitely easier because you're dealing with people in a lot better of a situation, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's other times where there's parts of it that are harder than what I dealt with over there because it's different frustrations, different pain points, things of that nature, and it's you learn how to navigate them all. So,
but you must learn. I mean, you must have some foundation formula for how you present yourself and deal with their problems. What's it look like?
For me, I just try to stay as even-tempered as I can. I'm not someone who gets angry on a regular basis. It takes quite a bit to get under my skin. I've had more strong people in my face screaming obscenities or calling me names or stuff like that.
In this industry, right?
Unfortunately, in this industry.
This more than the...
No, Marine Corps can have top.
Oh, Marine Corps is all right. That makes sense.
It's like, it's kind of, it taught me, and I've always been pretty even-tempered no matter what, but especially after having grown men, women screaming in my face, calling me all sorts of names and stuff to kind of break down your character to rebuild you, like the Marine Corps does, because it's all to rebuild you as a better version of yourself. That's that they don't just scream to scream; it's trying to make you better. So,
right.
But that's also where I can kind of look at it when I've got an angry customer in my face screaming obscenities at me because they're not happy we're not on schedule, we're missing parts, or they're just not happy with whatever that's going on the project. I'm just kind of sit there, I kind of take it and I go, I hear you, I understand you. Here's what I can do to make things better. Here's what I can make happen to get us across the finish line, get what I need to happen, or here's the best that I can offer. I apologize that this is the situation we're in. I'm going to do everything I can to make it right. They still may be angry at me down the road, and that's fine, but I'm going to do everything I can to try to make things right and get them across the finish line happy, things fixed, whatever the case is. So,
but what I like about that is if you speak just like that, and I believe you do, you're extracting the emotion out of it, right? They're coming in full emotion and you're going zero, right? So you've rebalanced the conversation, you've rebalanced the encounter.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, the Aslan training helped teach me a lot too, that he brought up, because I'm not a people person in the sense of groups make me nervous when I'm public speaking.
And I would make him do it too.
Yeah.
And now you're on a podcast.
And now I'm on a podcast. So, public speaking was never my strong suit. But, the Marine Corps helped me teach some. Pat's taught me a lot. The Aslan trainings helped. And just experience over time dealing with situations. My funeral, time in the funeral industry taught me how to speak in front of crowds as well. So you learn different environments, how to address people, things of that nature that help give you a pretty good idea of where you need to be at emotions-wise, frustration-wise, to de-escalate the situation while still getting the point across of, I hear you.
Yeah.
And that's usually one of the biggest things why a customer's upset and they're in my face is because they feel like they're not being heard. And if you can make them be like, if you can get a point across to them as I hear you, you're not just, it's not going in one ear and out the other. I hear you. Here's what I can do. And the biggest part is present them that plan. So that's kind of where I start. And then from there, I just try to get them on my side, I guess is the best way to put it. Just show like, hey, I'm here. I'm picking up a wrench. I'm here to do the job. If that means, like when we were doing one of our Nevada projects, I was there. I worked how many hours that pay period?
A few.
Just a few.
Just a few.
I went
all of them?
Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah.
I went from being at a project in Arizona until they're like, Jacob, we need you back up here. We're on a time crunch. We need to get this going. I went from working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in Arizona, Thursday morning in Arizona, then hopped on the road, drove back up to Las Vegas, got there that evening, woke up the next morning, got to site at 6 a.m., and then I proceeded to work for the next 2 weeks straight, 12 to 15-hour shifts.
Yeah.
So it's like if you show them, hey, I'm here to help, that puts a lot of their minds at ease, shows that we're there to get the job done for them. So there's that, and then obviously having now moved up to manager roles, having engineers, technicians under me, taking a lot of lessons I've learned from Pat, from my other mentors.
I bet. All right. So. I want to get into that manager transition, but what was the interview like? So you met this kid, and what you knew about him was he could take care of his drunk buddy.
Well, that and just his, in general, how he was with everybody, the demeanor about very even keeled and nothing really, set him off. Like you said, he's very, very just across the board, just nice and even keeled all the way through it. The interview process with me was very easy because, I had already talked to him and my daughter, shout out to Mason and Sabrina,
All right.
Their anniversary's coming up, but,
congrats.
Yeah. So no, I knew him. And again, my interviews are not just a typical interview. I'm like, how do you feel about this? You're out here, you're doing this. How would you handle this situation? I remember, I was interviewing for a supervisor role just before I left the last company I was at. And, it's kind of a tough question, but I was like, what are you going to do in the situation if you get two of your people or one of your people on site in fight with somebody else? How are you going to handle that as a manager? What are you going to do? And I had one of the people look at me like, why would that ever happen? I was like, trust me, it happens more than you think. You know, and I said, what I'm getting at is I want to see how you're going to handle that situation. I don't want you to step in between the two, but what I'm saying is the aftermath. What are you going to do with that individual to calm them down, get them back to a normal state, and go deal with the situation on hand? How do you want to handle that kind of thing? You know, and I remember the person going, that's not a valid question. You can't ask that. And I was like, I'm giving you real world scenarios of things that I've gone through and some of my other managers have gone through or supervisors. This stuff does happen. You know, and at that point they're like, I don't think I want this role. And I was like, understood. You know, it's not for everybody. But yeah, with Jacob, it was a very casual conversation because I'm a realist. I tell these guys straight up, this is what it's like. You're going to hate it. You know, you're going to have somebody yelling at you. This is going to happen. You're working in all kinds of elements, the mud everywhere. Your boots are caked with shit all over them, you know? Little things like that. I give them the worst case scenario. And that way, when they get out there and it's not as bad, they're like, well, it's not as bad as you said it was going to be, you know? And the reason for that is at a previous job about 10 years earlier, I had a manager. I was in the interview process with him and one of the other guys. And they sold him a line of BS all the way through. Oh, you're going to be in the office. We're going to do this. And 6 months in, we're out at Mid-America, if you know that one, out in the middle of nowhere. It's like a huge
Is this
site.
Nevada also?
No, it's here in California. It was the one of Warren Buffett's sites that he started up.
BHER. They have a big one here in the Roseman area, and then another one in kind of like halfway to the coast.
Yeah, it was out by San Luis Obispo, somewhere out there in the middle of nowhere.
Topaz.
Yeah, there it is, Topaz. I couldn't remember the name of it. We were out there doing this one, and this guy had been with us about 4 months, and I walk in for the morning meeting because we would always do a pod, you know, go through the process. Mm-hmm. This guy finally had enough. I mean, just threw his tools down and he's like, I quit. I'm done. You guys lied to me and all this other. And at that point, then, so I was like, why would we lie to this guy and tell him something completely different than what he's in for?
Yeah.
If I'm honest with these guys and they know what's coming, it's not as bad as I made it out to be, and they're going to accept it. But if I BS them through the process and I stick them out in the field for 6 months, they're going to quit. And you know how it is about new employees versus retaining and existing. Same way with customers. How much more does it cost you to go get a new customer than it is to retain the customer that you have? And in some cases, it's the most simplest thing, like provide me training. Mm-hmm. Have your service people show up when they say they're going to. Have a warehouse with parts in it that I can grab readily available. Mm-hmm. One of the other big things that I tell my managers is, I don't care if it's bad news, you need to tell the customer. If we inform them of what's going on and keep them abreast of the situation, they may not be happy about it, but they understand. If we just ghost them like a lot of people do in this industry, what are they going to do? They're going to get pissed off, start blowing up your phone, reaching out to anybody they can, and then they start bad-mouthing you. You know, hey, this company did this person did this, blah, blah, blah. I figure it's like, I'd rather you get upset at the fact that I may not have what you need or it may take 6 months to get here than not tell you anything and just have you upset because I'm not even talking to you.
Yeah.
So it's a point.
No, sharing information equally is key. Mm-hmm. There's an old phrase that one of my old bosses used to say, reasonable people equally informed seldom disagree. And I have repeated that my entire life and stayed true to it. And it's always the damn information is the problem. Mm. Once in a while you get an unreasonable person.
Right.
But usually it's people aren't sharing the information accurately. Sure.
Even if it's bad news, they still want to know.
You got to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get through it. Okay, interesting interview. So you heard how horrible this job opportunity might be.
Yeah.
What happened next?
I mean, during the interview.
Okay, sign me up.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, more or less, but not quite. I mean,
yeah. What was your take on the interview?
I mean, I appreciate the main thing. I appreciated the honesty. I'd rather someone tell me, "Hey, this is going to be the situation. You're going to be out in the cold. You're going to be out in the hot. You're going to be traveling." I think you had told me 80% of the time.
Yeah, it was big at first.
It's like, hey, 80% of the time, good chance you're going to be on the road in a hotel. Me personally, I'm single. I don't have kids, so not a big deal to me. I don't mind being on the road. I love to travel anyway. So especially if I can travel on someone else's dime.
Sure.
So, I appreciated the honesty of the position. Like, it's going to be hard. It's going to suck. There's going to be bad days. There's going to be great days. A lot of travel, which can be exhausting. You're going to be tired, but you're going to learn a lot of really good skills. You're going to make some pretty solid money, which has the opportunity to make more. You've got career opportunity growth throughout, whether it's here or wherever. You can go get more education, things of that nature, things that pique my interest personally, because don't get me wrong, I want to make more money. Everybody wants to make more money.
Of course.
But I want to make more money, and I also want to enjoy what I do. If I hate what I do, then I don't want to go to work. And I'd rather enjoy what I do, maybe not make $500,000 a year, but I make $200,000 a year, and I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy going to work. I look forward to going to it. It's not, oh God, I got to go to work. So, hearing things like that, the honesty definitely made me be like, I'm willing to give this some serious thought. And then the other part was, don't get me wrong, the starting pay was much nicer than what I was making at the time.
Okay.
So, because again, being a funeral director, you work with a lot of people, but thankfully I worked for a company that was very reputable, that treated their people well and paid fairly okay for what it was, but definitely I could have been paid more. But we weren't one of those funeral homes where you hear the horror stories of like a salesman, used car salesman that people think of when they hear funeral director.
Okay.
Where it's like, I'm here to sell you a $20,000 casket or,
gotcha.
sell you a $30,000 funeral. Like, that wasn't me. I never chased the money for the sales at that job. I was like, tell me what you want. I will build you what you need. And anything extra we can talk about, if you want. And thankfully, that worked for me because my customers for that responded to me, and I'd get sales anyway because it was in the low pressure. I said, here's what you need, but if you want something, then we can talk. Mm-hmm. But definitely getting back to that is, the starting pay definitely was a help, because I was pretty much paycheck to paycheck or a little bit under sometimes, because it's like cost of living keeps going up. My bills aren't going down. And
where were you?
So out of respect, I just don't want to say
in Phoenix,
the funeral home, but it was a funeral home in Phoenix.
No, I was just like city or state.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Arizona, Phoenix.
Gotcha.
So that's where I worked out of and loved it. Everybody I worked at, my funeral home, everybody I worked with was fantastic. Great people who genuinely enjoyed helping people.
Okay.
But, getting the honesty, again, I've always had a desire to learn and, do engineering things. I love engineering. I enjoy taking things apart, putting it back together, figuring out how it works. And, then the starting pay was definitely a bonus. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take a risk here. If they're willing to give me the job and give me the opportunity to teach me, then I'm willing to go in the deep end and figure it out.
In today's fast-paced industry, having the right tools isn't just an advantage, it's essential. That's where ETI Energy Tools comes in. With over 75 years of industry experience, they deliver strategic procurement solutions that enhance safety, efficiency, and cost savings. ETI provides industrial tools, safety gear, test and measurement equipment, and heavy repair solutions, all backed by a vast network of manufacturers. Whether it's tool kitting, PPE standardization, or high voltage tooling, ETI saves companies time and money while ensuring they have the right tools for the job. Contact ETI at etienergytools.com to learn more and gear up for success.
It's working out. You're embracing it.
Okay.
And you're building a heck of a career.
Thank you.
So the lesson is, if the bride's father, Reverend, is pole dancing, don't leave the party.
Well,
you're going to want to get to know this guy.
I mean, let me ask you, was that like the most different interview process you'd ever been through than anywhere you've ever been?
Yeah, because pretty much every other interview was your standard, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh, well, here's what our company can provide you. Very rigid, structured, your standard corporate speak, And I get it. There's a reason people do things a certain way, or maybe the company has, a reason why they have the interview process to be that way. But I just appreciated the more casual aspect, while still being professional, more casual aspect of just being honest of, here's what the job's going to entail. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy. It's going to be hard. There's even going to be a possibility where you consider quitting at one point. And it's like, but if you're willing to put in the work, put in the time, we'll teach you. And sure enough, between Pat, Frank, Guillermo, pretty much everybody we had at the last company that, which is where I first got on, and under Pat, that whole team was fantastic. They taught me a ton. I did a lot of learning on my own though, like off hours, I would go and read books on engineering, on inverters, DC circuits, AC
Good
circuits,
for you.
just trying to figure it out.
Good for you.
So, and then if I had questions, I go and ask him, or I go ask the trainers. I go, hey, I don't know this. What's this? Because that stuff, if you got the desire to learn it, it can be taught. And even if you don't have a degree, I don't consider that a bad thing,
Good.
Good.
That won't hold you back in the industry for sure.
No.
It's sometimes, don't get me wrong, degree's great if you have one. Not saying it's bad.
100%.
Just, sometimes you just got to take a gamble on someone without it, not just because he gave me a chance, but sometimes you wind up with a great employee. And not toot my own horn, just that's just the way I see it.
If you got a question, you go to line. You can probably find a book for free Or if you want to order from Amazon, you can get it. You can read it.
Exactly.
Yep.
I mean, hey, YouTube
Yeah.
taught me a lot.
Oh, man.
You know,
You can fix anything from YouTube now.
Yeah. I would pull up just free engineering books online, YouTube, Reddit.
Perfect.
Look up wiring diagrams. Hey, what's this do? What's that do? On that, and just try to figure it out myself, and then just ask questions where I needed to.
We got something in common. I was going to the public library after work in the late 90s to read AC and DC theory books.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't even have the money to check them out. Like my late,
You had a library card.
well, I think my late dues, were past $5, so I had to sit in there and read it. They wouldn't let me take another one out. Yeah, I did the same. Man, very cool.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Well,
I love this.
And again, this industry, I had guys, 16, 17 years ago going, you're not going to succeed. There's no way. It won't last. And here we are, still in the industry and growing like crazy, because the U.S. was way behind other countries on renewables, solar, battery storage, all of that other. And it's funny that I'm still in it and still growing and building, teams with guys that are still want to work and hammer it out. And it's just amazing how you can grow in this industry and you can have a very good career.
A very good career. A career.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Well, let me throw another one at you.
Yeah.
It's my daughter.
Okay.
And this is another one of my daughter. I got a lot of kids. I got 5.
5 kids?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So my daughter Shannon, she moved out to Arizona.
Do they all get the dancing reverend at the...
Oh yeah.
Okay, all right. Making sure.
Oh yeah.
No special
not only that,
treatment.
dude.
here.
I have a song that I sing to everyone in my family for their birthday, and it's a hair lip birthday song.
Oh my gosh.
Happy birthday! Every time. Oh, they love it, and they play it for the people at work. And I was like, "That's private. That's for you. That's not for everybody else."
Not anymore.
But they play it anyway. Yeah. Oh my god. But so my daughter Shannon, she moved out to Arizona. Lived in Wisconsin. Moved out to Arizona. Was waitressing, and at the time, my boss was like, "Hey, we need somebody in the front office working the phones." I was like, "Yeah, I'll bring my daughter in." I don't know if he didn't hear me, but he's like, "Yeah, bring her in for an interview." He interviewed her, hired her. 2 months in, I'm like, "Hey, let's go grab some lunch." I take her to lunch, and I come back, and he brings me in his office, and he's like, he has a very heavy accent because he's from Peru, and he's like, "Patrick." I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "You cannot do that." And I was like, "I cannot do what?" And he goes, "You cannot take those girls to lunch." And I said, "It's okay. She's my daughter." And he goes, "What do you mean it's your daughter? She can't work here." And I was like, "Why?" And he goes, "Nepotism." And I was like, "I told you when you brought her on, she was my daughter." He goes, "I don't remember you telling me that." And I was like, all right. So he's like, "We're going to have to let her go." I said, "Okay, understood. I get it. I don't want to cause any problems." And so we let her go. And then about 6 months later, he came back to me. He's like, "Hey, is your daughter wanting to get back into it?" And I was like, "Yeah, what do you think?" And he goes, "Let's talk to a vendor, see if they bring her on, and we'll have her come into the warehouse and strip down our string inverters because we got to take all the parts." We had a boneyard. I hate to say it, but we had a lot of failures in strings. So we had a boneyard where we were pulling parts out, scrapping what we could.
You weren't the only one.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. So, and this wasn't at the last place. This was at the one before that. And they were sold to ABB, and they took them over and all that other. Oh no, I'm sorry. This was Sungrow. I didn't mean to say that, but
it's okay.
Yeah,
we won't get in trouble.
No, okay.
We don't talk bad about anybody.
Yeah, no, we're not talking bad.
But yeah.
But so he's like, "Hey, let's bring her on as a vendor," and I was like, "All right, we can do that." So she goes in there, and he was looking at 4 months worth of work. Well, my daughter's a go-getter, man. She had it done in like a month, a week, 5 weeks in, something like that, and he was really impressed.
Yeah.
And so he went back to the vendor, and he's like, "Let's put her out in the field." So my daughter's 5'4", little tiny thing, but she's a firecracker, man. And she went out to the field, and from day one, secondary transformers, picking them up, putting them in the truck because we were changing them all out, bushing repair, tearing apart a transformer, draining it, all that right there with me, hooking up the pumps. Again, I'm a field guy. It's like, let's go learn this. Let's get out there and do it. We had vendors out there. She was part of the vendor. Even the guys were like, "Man, your daughter works hard." And I was like, yep, we go through it. Well, eventually they were like, "Hey, she's a vendor. We can't do it." I was like, "Hey, no problem." So the guy that hired her ended up moving her to the EV side. So, okay. and of course the company's like, "Well, we didn't think she was a good tech. We thought she was just brought on because of Pat." And he's like, "No, she's deployable. I'm going to put her out in the field. She's worth the money." So he had her doing EVs for a year and a half, and then she had another opportunity come up with another service company. So she went from, answering the phones to tearing inverters apart to support in the field as a vendor, and then went on to another vendor, and now she's with just started a new company, Aurora Energy, out of Colorado.
I know him.
Do you?
Yeah.
They just offered her and 3 other guys that worked with me at SunGrow that have gone on to bigger and better things. They all went over to this company, and now she's got a supervisor role.
Fantastic.
And she's about 5 years in the industry, and I told her, give me about 3 years and you can make a career out of it.
Yep.
And let me tell you, there was a couple times where she's like, I'm going back to waitressing, and I was like, just write it out, stick with it, embrace the suck.
That's it.
You'll get there. And now she's taken on a supervisor role, 5 years in the industry, making probably 4 times more than she could as a waitress.
Yeah.
You know? But it goes to show you that hard work pays off.
Yes.
She put in the time, put in the effort, dug herself into those trenches, did what she needed to do, and she's succeeding very well in the industry.
Congrats.
Thank you. I
love this
appreciate
story.
that. You know, I mean, and again, not just my kids, anybody else who wants to learn and grow, let's go, man. Let's make it happen. You know, one of the gentlemen that was with us today, we had to, believe it or not, I was actually changing air conditioners today.
Yeah.
We have the liquid cooled or air cooled systems that we have in Paula from here. We had an air conditioner go bad. So myself, Jacob, and 2 vendors dropped this 400-pound air conditioner off, put a new one in, got it up and running. The company that was there is PPS. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're out in the Anaheim area. Okay. One of my vendors that I use. And the young man that was there, I asked him, I said, hey, do you know Shannon McDade? And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, that's my daughter. And he's like, dude, she's a hard-working lady, man. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, I've worked with her on some jobs. And he was really praising her. And I was like, that's awesome. I don't know if he was sucking up to me or if he was really being honest, but he was like, no, she can work hard, man. That girl puts it out. I was like, that's good. That's good to hear. I appreciate knowing that my kids are making an effort to be very productive in society and make a difference, you know, and she's succeeding in it. And I couldn't be happier for her, you know.
Congrats. That's so cool.
Thanks. Yeah,
that's so cool.
I'm proud of her, man. She's doing a great job with it.
I love this. Is she the oldest? Or where's she at?
No. Shannon's in the middle. So
okay.
I know I look young and youthful, but the reality
I can't believe you have 5.
The reality is I have a 32-year-old daughter, Ashley. Okay. She lives in Montana. And then Sabrina and Mason, which I mentioned earlier, she's 31 this year. Shannon is 27. And then I have a 15-year-old and a 9-year-old at home, Tristan and Reagan. Okay. I have 1 boy and 4 girls, so I definitely learned patience, you know, over the years. But it's been a blast, and yeah, she's my middle daughter, and you know, she wanted to go. Like I said, you know, it was one of those things of like, hey, I'm waitressing until I find something else and do all this, and it just happened to work out to where she got into it, liked it, and then moved up and just found a way to make it work. But I'll tell you what, man, she's beautiful. Beautiful young lady. But she gets out there, take off the nails, get to work, the eyelashes come off, go to town. And I mean, like, where we were at before, we had a lot of bushing problems. So we were draining the transformers, getting all the fluid out of it, going in there, changing out all the bushings, putting new ones in. So, and at the time, she was 24. I got this 24-year-old lady on top of, you know, the inverter, tearing apart a transformer, getting it all off. And the guys are like, really? I was like, she's a worker, man. She'll get out there and hustle. And she proved herself many a times. I mean, Jacob, he's like, I want Shannon to come out and help me on this site. You know, I can count on her to get it done. And it's the thing that gets me more than anything in this industry, and in any industry really, is where they start talking nepotism. You know, they're like, oh, you can't do this. Oh, you know, and it does happen. Favoritism is there, you know, and you know, things happen. So when they were like, no, we can't, I was like, oh, I get it. You know, I understand that. But the way I look at it is like, this young lady went out and proved herself every day and hustled and was doing stuff that men weren't even doing. You know, they're like, oh, I can't lift that. She's like, get out of my way. I can do this. And then they were like, well, if Shannon can do it, I can do it too. So it was a motivator to some of the guys. You know, I'll give you an example. When she was with the last company she was with, they were a vendor company that was already in our network, and we used them. We had to go out to Mississippi, and we had to take a bad battery module out of our container. Our module's 330. 320,
330, 350,
yeah, 330, yeah, depending on the module itself. I mean, there's 21 cells in there. You know, it's pretty
beefy.
Bulky. Yep. So it's myself on the front of the battery. It's Shannon over here, and then I had a young gentleman from the company I worked for, and Shannon's 5'4". This gentleman was probably about 5'7", 5'8". You know, he's a good sized guy. So we're trying to hoist the battery in, and I've got the weight of it up front, and Shannon's lifting her side. We had a lip that was maybe an inch that he had to get up on his side. He couldn't get that lip up. you know, and Shannon's like, I got my side in. And finally I was like, Alden, get out of the way. Shannon ran over there, lifted his side up, and we slid the battery in. And he goes, oh, okay. And he just kind of turned around and walked away. But after that, he was like getting into it, trying to lift it up. And I don't know if it was one of those things where he's like, well, she can do it. I guess I can too. But he could not get that side of that battery up, man. And when he saw her do it, he's like, okay, I'll try on the next one. You know, and it was comical because I love that people will sit there and say, oh, girls can't do this job, women can't do that job. And I was like, get out of the way and let this one go, man.
Yeah, it's all here. It's not here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, some of the most successful ladies I've had are now like for example, I have a young lady that joined us, and she was taking over my North Carolina sites. And I moved her into a supervisor role after about 6 months, and then she went into I needed somebody in Canada. And her wife were like, absolutely, let's go. We'll move up to Canada. She goes up there and she took over the whole Canadian region and just blossomed and is doing wonders with it. Well, she ended up leaving the company, and now she's with another company. But again, she's succeeding beyond people's expectations, you know, and she called me up. And again, dude, I love these. She's like, Pat, if it wasn't for you taking a chance on me, I wouldn't be where I am today. And dude, that hits me. That hits me hard. I'm like, God, I'm glad to hear that you're succeeding in this industry. You know, because nobody gives women a fair shake sometimes. You know
your motivation. Why is that?
I don't know. Because I think what you said, they think it's a muscle thing or the brawn. It's like, dude, it's all in the head. You know, if you're going to go hustle, you'll find a way.
Yeah.
If it's heavy, you'll find a way to work around. You know, you'll make a mechanism to help you lift it in or something to get it in there. And I got to be honest with you, man, ladies are more meticulous and pay attention to detail, documentation. I don't know how many times I got to call a guy. I'm like, dude, give me your daily report. I need to know what you did today. 5, 6 o'clock at night, man, the ladies, it's right in here. I can go through it, see what they did for the day. And on the guys, I'm like, hey, need that report, man. Oh yeah, I'm working on it.
Yeah. They're sipping on a beer.
Attention to detail, the whole works. I love the ladies in the industry. They succeed very well.
We need more.
Absolutely. Bring them on. Any ladies want to go to work? Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that.
Yeah.
We do need more ladies, and I don't know how to get more of them, but
we should start a recruiting company for all ladies in the industry.
We're brainstorm some logos and some names and
absolutely.
Okay, good.
Well, you know, years ago, one of my oldest daughters, and I love this about Ashley too, is she took in high school, she took shop. She wanted to turn wrenches on cars. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah, Dad, it kind of intrigues me. It interests me. And I was like, oh, that's awesome, man. And of course, my brain started going, and I was like, neon pink sign, Ashley's Garage in cursive writing, a big neon pink. Cater to the ladies, you know, because think about women when they go into an automotive place and how they're treated. Like they don't know anything about cars. But man, if women had a place where it was a women-ran business with women mechanics in there doing the thing, and you set it up to where it's like, hey, you want to hang out here? You know, a little coffee, a little soothing area, whatever it may be, knowing that they're being taken care of by a bunch of ladies turning wrenches on the car, I think that would go over like gangbusters, man.
That's wild.
Yeah, wild. The fact that she loved turning wrenches, that was my brain spinning off like, let's get her a garage. You know, right. Slow down, Dad. I'm just learning.
You're trying to foster her passions.
Oh, yeah. You know, and I think, I can honestly remember back to when I was in the Air Force, and the ladies would come into our shop, and the guys would shy away. They're like, no, I don't want. And I was like, boss, I'll take them. I'll train them. And I trained, when I was stationed in Germany, I trained at least 4 women that were in our shop, and they all succeeded very well because somebody gave them an opportunity to prove that they could do this job. And I love that. You know, I love that these ladies are like, I can do this. I want to go after it. And it's like, I'm willing to help you all day long. Let's go.
You know, male or female, there's something common about it. A person just getting an opportunity.
Absolutely.
Just getting an opportunity. And then you get to go and show the world what you can do with that.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't feel like they could have a shot. I don't know what it is, but.
Well, I think about how many times they're turned down before they even get the opportunity.
Maybe the work doesn't sound too appealing to Mike.
That's true.
I mean,
because I know my daughter
it could be that obvious.
Like, man, this sucks.
I mean, you did explain how bad this job sucks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Holy smokes. We didn't go over too bad. This has been great.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
This has been great. I'm glad you guys came up. It was lucky that you were kind of near.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, kind of near.
Hey, anytime, man. I enjoy this stuff.
This is great.
I got some stories, man. I got some crazy stories.
We got to keep telling stories.
But it's been fun. You know, I mean, over the years in the industry, I still feel very passionate about it as long as I've been doing it. The opportunities are there. The growth in the United States is insane. the tariffs, what's going on, it's slowing things down a little bit, but there's always a workaround. They always find a way to keep succeeding in this industry. And I think that we've gotten to a point now where we realize it is sustainable and it's worth doing, and let's keep building on it. And I think we're going to keep growing like crazy.
And we'll find a way to sustain.
Find a way.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. There is a lot of uncertainty right now.
Absolutely.
No, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
We'll find a way.
It's interesting. I had a phone call with our sales VP the other day. And, he's like, in this industry right now, there's not a lot of opportunity. And I was like, that's where you're wrong. I said, I can tell you right now, in Phoenix alone, there are 25 management and or director positions in renewable energy, whether it's battery or whether it's PV or whether it's EV charging systems. There is plenty of opportunities out there.
Yes.
And that's just in Phoenix, 7 million people. And I know every state, there's plenty of opportunities and jobs. And it's really funny because my LinkedIn, more than anything else, is when I see somebody saying, hey, we're hiring, I like it and I repost it for them. And it's like just trying to draw my people to more opportunities in the industry.
That's cool.
Oh,
That's
absolutely. Cool. I love it. I know there's other people out there that enjoy it too, and they see the growth, the potential, the opportunity, and kind of what we're doing for the planet, trying to make it a better place for those kids that I got, man, and their kids when they have them.
Nothing wrong with that. I always say humans want a lot of power, so let's just give it to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Everyone wants more electricity. Let's give it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys, for coming
absolutely.
out.
Thank you.
This has been a treat. I'm glad you came along.
Isn't that a great story?
What a story. I didn't see that one coming.
Well, and it was that we were working today, and I was like, dude, I hate to tell you this. You're stuck with me now because it was either an hour back to San Diego or we come up here and do this. And I was like, you're going? He goes, well, yeah. And I said, we're going to get you in there talking about your story. He's like, really? I said, it's a great story.
The guy that doesn't want to be a public speaker, you're on a podcast.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I appreciate it. Coming up here, sharing it, it's always a good time because it also just goes to show anybody can do it if they put their mind to it.
That's it.
And again,
That's it.
Putting them in an uncomfortable situation and getting them comfortable with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's easy when we're just sitting here talking, though.
Absolutely.
Right? That it makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now you got to realize you're on camera, too.
Oh, no, I realize.
All right, guys. Let's
Appreciate
get
it.
out of here.
Yeah.